you know, this is a little scary, this AI stuff. I'm just talking about Harvard, and this pops up, Harvard Gazette, and I'm talking about life on Earth, pre-flood and post-flood, and it was related to a meteorite the size of 4 Mount Everest hit Earth. And this is from Harvard. It's not mine. And they say this did happen. Only I say it was not a meteorite 4 times Everest. It was Venus bounced off our atmosphere. But Harvard, and they also do agree that the oceans did boil. Okay, so don't forget, this is Harvard. They're talking about a giant meteorite, 4 times the size of Mount Everest, slamming into Earth billions of years ago. Well, that's kind of hard to determine. And they say this new study, they found this happened, and it boiled off the surface of the ocean, and it stirred up everything from down underneath and swirled it all up and brought up the siliceous ooze, which created the silica-rich environment that created the mudfossils. These are all products of aluminum silicates primarily. And I've explained this hundreds of times. This meteorite, they say 200 times bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs. Well, anyway, it triggered a tsunami that mixed up the ocean, flushed debris from the land into the coastal areas, worldwide, the whole world. Heat from the impact caused the topmost layer of the ocean to boil off, while also heating the atmosphere. A thick cloud of dust blanketed everything, shutting down any photosynthetic activity. This is what gave us the red bed, the gray and green clays, and the black cap. How did we get the red bed? Well, it boiled the creature's bodies, which is red, iron-rich flesh. That turned into the red mud, which it does today. The same stuff would happen today if you did the same thing to it. Boiled it all off and then let it settle. It would settle into a red slushy mix. Anyway, that's the red bed. On top of that, the gray clay is the cellulose type of things. They're a little bit lighter. They're not as heavy as the metal that's in the red bed, which is the clay. So those settled on top, and then on top of that, the black cap, which is the fallout, as they said, heating the atmosphere. A thick cloud of dust blanketed everything. I mean, you're talking thick. I have it here. And I am in the Triassic zone, and this is Triassic rock. Red bed, gray clay, black cap, and I have that with a human footprint in the middle of those 3 layers. They all came down right after this giant flood because of this impact, and it was not billions of years ago, my friends. I do not think so at all. I believe Velikovsky was exactly correct with all of the other people on Earth. They had the story of an impact that crushed the sky and flooded the lands, set fires to everything, boiled the oceans, killed everything, basically. You know, some survived, yes. But all of this happened in one brief flash as it hit the Earth. And all of the ancient texts say the same thing. The Earth wrenched and had this gigantic global flood. That's the ancient text, and it's supported by the Triassic layer, which is worldwide. 100% of the world has this layer. Red, gray-green, clay, black cap. And all my mud fossils came out of there, and they turned into mud stone. All right, it's nucleophilic substitution and invasion. All right, that was a bonehead at one time, and it was separated from everything else by its fascia layer. That's why I originally called this fascia facilitated fossilization. I think the papers are still up on academia.edu, but everything is coated with fascia. And the only bit that still has any bone in it at all is that little tiny spot, which you probably cannot see. A little bitty spot right there. They just didn't transition the way bones did. Bones just turned white and bleached. These got invaded with substitution, nucleophilic substitution and invasion through that membrane. And any collagen will allow it, like my buddy here, Caesar. You see his feathers? See that? That's his feathers. They're all made out of collagens and keratins and really fibrous, tough stuff that can work in the weather and all that. And that's the same basically as we have our skin. Same sort of components make it. Inside though it's basalts, and you can see the pattern of his throat and everything else if you look carefully in the right, it's his throat. And there's an artery right there. The vein is over here. Veins don't leak out. And he died flat like they all do. And there's his throat coming up here. But he died flat in the flood. Caesar Augustus. Now, I have everything to support every single word I'm saying. So, we're talking about the Great Flood. Velikovsky had all the ancient texts from all over the world. So, I'm going to work with that. I'm going to work with Apollodorus and all of them. And they all had the same story about the giant flood, and they had giants and dragons and gods, and they could do all kinds of miraculous, mystical things. And yes, that just appears to be true. Just appears to be true. You see this? They said after this terrible impact, the bacteria, according to the team's analysis, bounced back quickly. With this came sharp spikes in populations of these single-celled organisms that feed off the elements phosphorus and iron. Well, let me tell you something. Phosphorus is all membranes are phospholipid membranes, 2 layers of phosphorus. And they do feed off the phosphorus. Yes, they love phosphorus. And iron as well, yes, because iron is in the blood. Those 2 things, yes, absolutely. Iron was likely stirred up from the deep ocean. Absolutely not. Iron came out of the bodies of these boiling creatures. The silicates came from the bottom, which is called siliceous ooze. They're saying that the iron was stirred up from the deep ocean, likely. No, not likely at all. Into shallow waters by the aforementioned tsunami, which was the impact of the whole thing, and phosphorus was delivered to Earth by the meteor itself. How could they possibly say that? The phosphorus was in the membranes of the creatures' bodies, bilipid phospholayers. Every single bit of your body, your organs, your tissues, your muscles, your tendons, your eyeballs, your fingernails, everything has a membrane around it, and that membrane is made out of phosphorus. Membranes are made out of phospholipid membranes. They got a wet fluid membrane in the middle, which is called hydrophilic and hydrophobic. One opposes water and one wants water. And in between there, they have what they call ion channels, little channels where certain ion polar particles can get in and out. And they know which ones can get in and which ones have to leave. It's staggering that they can do this, but every cell basically in your body has to be able to be serviced by things coming in and things going out. And they have to know what should come in and what's got to stay out. It's stunning, absolutely stunning. Anyway, so they're saying it was likely stirred up. No, it was the siliceous ooze, silicates. And the phosphorus was not delivered to Earth by a meteorite. How do they come up with this kind of stuff? The analysis shows iron metabolizing bacteria. Yes, basically everything lives off of iron, and they turn nice and green, would thus have flourished in the immediate aftermath of the impact. Yes, because everything was just like fertilizer, basically. The shift toward iron-favoring bacteria, however short-lived, is a key puzzle piece depicting early life on Earth, according to Raybon's study, meteorite impact events, while reputed to kill everything in their wake, including 66 million years ago. The dinosaurs carried a silver lining. They think it's carried life to here. No, it wiped out life just as was advertised. And all of this stuff is not correct. It didn't pull iron up from the base, from the ocean floors. It pulled up the siliceous ooze, which they still can't explain why the ocean was so saturated with silicon. Nobody knows why. I know why, because the siliceous ooze came up when we got impacted. All right, siliceous ooze. It's on the basement floor. Deep sea sediment. It's 2.5 times heavier than water. It goes right to the bottom. It's an ooze composed of siliceous, which means silica-based remains of microscopic marine organisms like diatoms and radiolarians. Well, it's silica-based, and that is what supersaturated the waters when all of this stuff all got all whipped up into a frenzy when we almost got hit by Venus. And everything caused the Earth to have just layers. The red bed from the boiled red fleshy things in blood. All right, that's the red bed. On top came the gray and green clays, which are mostly plant life. And then settling down on top that was a black cap. And it all happened virtually within a few days of each other. All those layers were put down. And can I prove that? I think I can. Let me show you. Okay, this is my wild claim that this is the Triassic rock, the 3 layers. The red bed, the gray clay, and the black cap. So these were here, and the black cap was on top of this. I believe it's a human footprint. Now, why is this at the same layer as the gray clay? I'm going to show you why, and I'm going to explain to you what the Triassic is and how this formed. And it shows that there was human beings similar to our size here at the same time as the Triassic occurred. And because I am on an exposed Triassic layer, right down the street from Dinosaur State Park, who has the dinosaur footprints, a huge number of them, this is the same thing, only it's human. Now, this is the 3 layers. Red bed, gray clay, black cap. All right? However, this should be on top of that. It shouldn't be down equal to it. That's not right. Here's how it should be. All right? This is my claims. Triassic has a red bed, which is this. The red bed is not, well, here's the layer like this. This would have been the substrate prior to the flood. The flood boiled the flesh off of all these creatures and created a red bed, which would have been, this whole thing would have been a red bed all the way across. Red, 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 red. All right, you with me so far? It would have been just like this. Then the gray clay right here came down, which is a lighter substance than the heavier clay. And it settled on top, so you had a red bed, gray clay, and then all the volcanism and burning and the thick black clouds all settled down as a black cap. Now, I have an unusual situation here. My footprint is down through the red bed. It's equal to the red bed. So what that has to be, and then the black cap came on top, what has to be is that the red bed was complete here, everything's fine, and then the gray clay came down here, everything's fine, 2 separate layers, and then the guy came running like hell and he landed on top of the gray clay, which was still wet, on top of the still wet red bed, and pushed it down, so the gray clay, which is here, is now down under here. And the red bed is at the same level as the gray clay. That's the only possible way this could have happened. Now, I'm going to show you this, because I have the sample right in front of me here. And I can put a little water on it. You'll see the gray is still here, And it's on the other side of the red bed. It's not supposed to be on the other side. The gray is supposed to be above the red. It's not supposed to be below. But the gray is down here mixed with the red, and the red just got squirted out of the way, and the gray is absolutely flawless footprint. So it had to have happened at the same time. And the black is perfectly settled into the gray clay, and that had to happen quick too, because there's no erosion on this. There's virtually no erosion. You can see where the water sucked up. And when he hit it there, it was slimy, and it pulled up all these little dimples. I'll show you this in pretty good detail. And this, I am in the Triassic area, and it's a worldwide 3-color layer. It was discovered in Germany, but it's everywhere in the world. Now, it's called the Great Dying. At this layer is a great dying. Everything died, basically. And is recorded as a hot water worldwide global flood, heavy silicates and salts.
Don't forget to...
All right, this led to exceptional soft body preservation. I have mine DNA tested, and they're modern human beings. And these are the body parts. And I explain this in great detail, and there's really no way you can deny this when you see what I'm about to show you. Okay, this is the red bed, which is nothing but red, wet flesh that boiled off into mud. And then there was a gray clay, which was up here as thick as this piece right here, because this is all gray clay. And that was above this. And the guy came running, he stepped on this, and it pushed this gray clay down through the red bed. And we can see it's gray clay. Now, you need to put water on things to see them well. All right, this is the red muddy clay. You see that? That's red. That's what they call a red bed. And all it is a red muddy clay. And that was right there. All right, so you're with me so far. Now this is the guy's footprint. All right, so that's his footprint, or hers, or whoever it was. Now there's a toe that I can't account for here, but I can tell you what, that right there is the balls of the feet of the foot. And it's exactly flawless. There's the heel imprint. All of that, and I think it might be a no-toe, because we found no-toes all over the place here. So it might have some kind of strange thing. I can't account for that little jobber right there. There are a couple of things I really having a hard time, but that's all right. That's what it's all about. Now, down here, you see this? You see that gray? That gray is right under this slip of slime. At one time was slime. When that guy landed on there, that was like a little slippery coat of slime. But it was wet, but strong enough so he could land on it and still keep going. And what happened was he hit it and it went, I call them suck-ups. And they're all over here, but not right on the edge of his foot, because there's no suction there. The suction is in the middle. And it created these suck-ups. And then the black cap landed on there. It must have been almost instantaneously. Now look at those little dimples. You see those? You see those? Those little suck-ups. They're suck-ups. And that's what caused those. Now, my point being is this would have had to have been so fast that no erosion would have happened between the time the black cap landed on here. Now, we saw the gray here, and this whole slab is gray. You see that? That's not supposed to be gray there. That is not supposed to be gray. That's supposed to be the red bed. But it was nothing but gray, and it was pushed right down through the red bed. So now, instead of the red being down here, the red is above it. I think you should be able to see that. Sometimes you gotta let it dry out for a second. Oops. if you can see that or not. Sometimes I don't know what shows up good, but I can tell you what, that whole piece is gray clay. So that's the thickness of the layer. All right, this other layer was right down to where that landed. So the whole thickness was of the red bed would have been this thickness, and the gray clay would have been the same thickness. Isn't that bizarre? And this right here, this is just nothing but the red bed. Hold on. That's the red bed all around. See how fast it sucks up the water? That red clay really sucks it up. And then over into here, you get into the gray, which is a different substance. It does not have the porosity that the red bed has. As you can, it's quite easy to see, I think. I can see it very clearly. And that's the case. And the red is over here too. And there's the red and the gray together. And the red, again, is supposed to be down here, and the gray is supposed to be up here. It's backwards. And that's guy, because this guy hit here and went there like that and went and sucked up all these little dimples. Yeah. And there's the gray. Well, it fogs out on me. Anyway, that's in Triassic rock. This happened, all three layers. My opinion, which is correct, as always, this all happened from this impact of Venus trying to hit Earth. It hit Earth. I'm in a basin. I live in a basin area. It's the best studied Triassic rock in the world. And it just boiled in this basin for a very long time. And then apparently some dam broke, and then it drained out, and then it left all my mud fossils, because they're everywhere, just everywhere. They boiled all these creatures, and for some reason they collected on my property. I mean, I have them coming out of my ears, and I have big ones. That's a 2-inch hair follicle. I don't know what it's from, but that's the erector pili muscle, sebaceous gland, root ball. I show these things over and over and over, and I cannot get one single expert to speak about it, because it really is it's a tough thing for them to go through, this learning curve, which, you know, they're telling the kids what they have to say to become educated. It's just not right. It's just not right. So let's just talk about it. That's all I'm asking for. Open discussion, alternative opinions. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. Just like academia. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong about everything. But I want to start from the Mudfossils. Explain this stuff to me. I can explain it with the Triassic layers, and they're right on the surface. And Velikovskys said this happened not long ago. It was only 1500 BC. That's 3,700 years ago. Not 3.5 billion, that kind of thing. So until they can address it, and again, I have DNA and CAT scans, specimens, blood, and I have literally hundreds and hundreds of researchers around the world collecting specimens and samples, sending me stuff that nobody else has. Like this right here. That's a membrane. It's a giant membrane. You see that? That brown one and that brown one right there. In between is the fluid-filled highway, basically, where fluids through the body. This is from a gigantic creature. Everything I have of the mud fossils, well, not everything, but a lot of them are giant. And one of them, I have a 3-foot-long fingertip, DNA tested. It still has the fingerprint and a fingerprints and a fingernail on. So it's time for them that are teaching to discuss this. It's just like Yale, and I gave Yale all my information, and they say yes, this does happen, and it happens because of rapid silica cement, which is the ocean ooze coming up from precipitation. Well, that's water, facilitated, which is facilitated fossilization by high silica saturation in the oceans. They can't account for that. Why was there high silica in the oceans? Nobody knows. I know because we got hit by Venus. And this is by the people I gave the research to at Yale. And my final paper was 2015. They all knew this stuff. And they're taking credit for it. And you don't hear about this. You don't hear this because it changes everything about evolution. It changes everything about our history. And until it's examined, then we're living in a fantasy world still, which we have been forever. So I guess I'll go with that.